Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Tuesday, December the 28th, 2021. Today's show, former Gamecocks football player Alex McGrath joins me once again to break down the latest developments with South Carolina football, including the additions of quarterback Spencer Rattler and tight end Austin Stogner. We also talk about bowl game opt-outs that fit South Carolina and across college football as well. Of course, also, we break down the game on Thursday as the Gamecocks take on the North Carolina Tar Heels in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Guys, all that, much more here in a packed Tuesday show, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, for all your moving needs this holiday season and going into the new year, be sure to check out our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group, or of course, if you have any other questions, go to their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That's upstatemoversgroup.com. Be sure to check them out and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Let's get it. Joining us once again, former Gamecocks football player Alex McGrath. Very excited to chat with him, as there have been a lot of recent developments with South Carolina football over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we have not talked with Alex or chatted with Alex since the final game of the 2021 season, but the Gamecocks, of course, are bowl bound. It is game week. South Carolina taking on UNC. And of course, guys, like I said, tons of other things to get into as well. Very excited to get Alex's perspective here on this Tuesday. But first things first, Alex, appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you. How was the Christmas with the kiddos? And how have you been over the last couple of weeks?
Been good, man. Been good. We've gotten through Christmas. Santa Claus woke my children up at 5:45 Christmas morning. So we were up for a long time before the sun came up, dailying in all the toys that Santa had left. And, 15, 16 straight hours of parenting will leave you a little Christmas hungover on a Monday. So that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah, I told you off the air, man. I mean, obviously you're in the office. You're fighting the good fight in the office. Some people take off from I feel like the 15th to the end of the year, but you're fighting the good fight in the office this week, my friend. A lot of respect for you in that regard.
let my appearance in the office serve as a PSA to everybody else in the corporate world not to ignore administrative tasks until the last minute. Yeah. So if I can provide that service to everyone, I'm happy to do it.
But like you said, Christmas with small children's an adventure. So you probably, I would imagine you might be kind of glad to leave the household and kind of, let that take care of itself on the home front.
No, Chris, I would never be excited to leave the family with all of those new toys. That sounds, how heartless could I be?
Yeah, good point. Now, so I asked you before, by the way, about the Christmas tree and when do you put out Christmas decorations? So are you a day after Christmas, rip the tree down and rip the decorations down? Or do you let it hang out until New Year's, or what's your timeline on taking all the stuff down?
That's a really good question. So we've taken down some of the decorations. Tree's still up. A lot of the inside stuff outside of the tree has been boxed up and put away. Outdoor decorations, I really don't want to climb a tree to get lights off of it right now. So I'm going to let that hang out for as long as my wife will let me let that hang out. But we're kind of picking it up in pieces as we're outside and everybody's playing with stuff.
Very good. Very good. No, I if I had a tree, I think I'd probably be late this week would be when I take it down, but hey, to each their own, whatever. Hey, let's talk Gamecocks again, Alex. It's been a couple of weeks since we had you on and a lot to discuss, a lot to get into. We got to start with the huge news, though, that took Gamecock Nation by storm just a few weeks ago when Shane Beamer really just dropped the bomb on us all. And he found himself a quarterback. Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma, officially a Gamecock. He also brought along his friend Austin Stogner, the tight end, which a fantastic player. I think this dude's 6'6", 260 and runs like a freaking gazelle. I'm very curious, again, to get your insight and your perspective on this because, Alex, we knew, right, the reality of the quarterback position and the revolving door it was this year. And just that was something that had to be addressed, right? You don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. And I brought the statistic up to you off the air that South Carolina did not throw for more than 200 yards in its last 5 games. So the passing attack was a problem. But again, when you have that guy, and it's no disrespect to anybody currently on the roster, but when you have that guy, you have a chance. And I think you and I both felt like Shane Beamer needed to make that splash. And we talked about if it wasn't priority number 1, it was very close. Your overall thoughts and your reactions when you saw the news, because I think we speculated on it for a while, right? Like, hey, he's in the portal. Where is he going to go? Does Shane Beamer have, good enough ties with this kid to get him here? And the Gamecocks, Alex, finally did something they don't normally do. They took a risk. Despite the outside noise, they took a risk. You now bring in Spencer Rattler, who is undisputed QB1 going into 2022, all types of new hope, optimism for your season, for the future of Gamecocks football. But your immediate thoughts, reactions, overall feelings on the addition of Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner from Oklahoma.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, to get somebody in that position who is as highly touted and is as talented as Spencer Rattler is, I mean, one, you kind of settle the dust on QB1 position going into 22, and 2, it just brings a ton of national attention to the program that's really not been there since Spurrier walked through the door. And I think when you're trending in that direction, given like the early signing period and like right here in the lifeblood of that recruiting cycle, I think that just speaks volumes of the staff and what they were able to accomplish here. I mean, you and I joked, once Lincoln Riley decided to go to Southern Cal, our sincerest wish was that Beamer was on an airplane to Norman, Oklahoma to go talk to all these guys. And turns out maybe he was.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we all just, just talking about this, can we all stop and take a moment to just recognize what a legend Shane Beamer is? I mean, it's just a legend to make this happen. Like, I just, it's incredible, dude. Like, Beamer's a baller, bro. Awesome. I mean, it's beyond words how big of an impact that is picking up Spencer Rattler. It's just, incredible.
You have legitimacy of the position that, has been wish-washy at best for years now. And so, I mean, that's just, there's no Colin Hill transfer coming in to see what can happen. There's no, oh my God, our starting quarterback went down. Do we have anyone else? Oh, here's a grad assistant that has a year of eligibility left. Now you have like a legitimate player, and not to say like Luke's not a legitimate player, but like, a nationally recognized name that's going to be pulling the trigger for you next year, and the attention that brings with it, could be both negative and positive, but on the front end, certainly until the ball snapped, it's hugely positive.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, Alex, the national recognition. I mean, South Carolina was on SportsCenter, and not for a blunder or a mishap or some embarrassing highlight. Like, the Gamecocks were literally trending. And like you said, I agree with you that, I mean, on the field, obviously it's a huge pickup. You have exponentially upgraded that position. And what Shane Beamer, by the way, has done, I want to get to this more in just a second, but what he's done just transforming the quarterback room, adding not just Spencer Rattler, but Braden Davis, Tanner Bailey, the former Oregon committee. I mean, it's very apparent, in my opinion, that Shane Beamer knew, hey, I got to find a quarterback. Like, I got to change this room, because we're not going to win big or even have the chance to win big if we don't have QB1. We're just not going to, right? It's a quarterback-driven league, quarterback-driven game. If you don't have that guy on a week-in, week-out basis in the SEC, going to be very, very tough, unless you got like a defense like Georgia had this year. Either way, though, you mentioned the national recognition.
Which even talking about Georgia, didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work in the end, I guess. But who knows? Maybe the playoff will see things shake out differently. But either way,
it won't.
Georgia would be a great program if Alabama just didn't exist. But they do.
Yes, they would.
They do. So, but either way, you talk about, again, the national recognition. And I think, again, on the field, it's obvious the impact Spencer Rattler brings. But the national recognition, I want to get your takeouts. Again, this is looking way, way far ahead. But your overall expectations for Spencer Rattler in a Gamecocks uniform, because I was asked that question. And for me, it's very hard to pinpoint statistically, he's got to throw for this many yards or throw 20 touchdowns or 25 or 30 or whatever. But for me, it will be a successful stint at USC. People have been asking me, how many years is he going to be at Carolina? Well, hopefully 1, because hopefully he balls out and gets drafted. Yeah. The Gamecocks, Alex, had not had a quarterback drafted since 1989, Todd Ellis. And so I think if Spencer Rattler can break through and be that guy, he's obviously an NFL guy. if he can get drafted, I think it automatically just opens the door up to more big-time quarterback talent, 5 stars that maybe wouldn't have considered South Carolina, but now they say, hey, I can go there and get to the league. Like, it's possible. Somebody did it. I mean, any early thoughts, though, what you would feel like, what you would deem a successful season for Spencer Rattler next year?
I think okay. So let me back up a tad. I think assuming that the story is true, I think Satterfield's pitch to him, while some may view it as a little too brusque, I think it actually brings some legitimacy to it, because it's like, hey, you were this all-world talented player at Oklahoma, and you just got supplanted by a freshman. So the entire world thinks you stink, and the entire world thinks I stink. And so I think mostly for him, if we are going to continue to run this system, is can he adapt to something that he's going to look at more on Sundays versus what he was doing at Oklahoma? And so what does that look, what is like translating that into success? I mean, if you can win 8 games, throw for 2,800 yards, 20 touchdowns, I think that's a huge win for him and us as a program.
Yeah. Now it's going to be exciting, man. Like you said, it just brings, and the splash that Shane Beamer has made on the college football world, not just the SEC, not just South Carolina, but the college football world, the college football landscape, landing a Spencer Rattler, landing that name, having him in Columbia. I mean, it's going to be incredible when he posts that first picture on his Instagram, whatever, him actually in a Carolina jersey. It'll be like, oh, this is real. So hell of a job. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Shane Beamer. Is literally the GOAT for that edition. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, your guy Shane Beamer is a legend for that. Our guy Shane Beamer, a legend for that. We're talking recruiting, of course. The transfer portal is a big thing. I'll just get your brief thoughts, Alex, on any major takeaways from the recruiting class. I mean, the Gamecocks, I think right now are sitting at like 20th or 21st. Obviously, you had the big flip of Jayshawn Barham the morning of signing day, which was just a complete mess. And especially when we found out. I'll ask you that. Have you ever heard a recruiting story like that? Because Shane Beamer was very blunt, very honest. I mean, the kid literally committing, and Shane Beamer gets a call 10 minutes later saying, hey, just so you know, he's going to flip on signing day. I mean, I've never personally heard of anything so crazy as what Jayshawn Barham did.
So the person that called was who?
Somebody close to the situation in Maryland. I have no idea.
Because that's the only detail I saw on it was somebody close to the situation. I was like, what does that mean? Was that
and what makes it so bad?
A friend? Who was that?
Maybe a coach. I think what makes it so bad too, though, is that Beamer said that Barham and his mother called him the night before signing day, and we're saying, we're so happy we found a home. We can't wait to get to South Carolina, and then he pulls the rug out from under him the morning of signing day. So that
just doesn't. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know why you would. It's a weird troll.
I don't get it either. But either way, I think the Gamecocks, and they've still got room, obviously, to add, because the other signing day, or what used to be normal signing day, is in February. So there's still time to add pieces. I think you're going to see South Carolina continue to attack the transfer portal. But your overall thoughts, any takeaways from you on the recruiting class? Again, you're like 20th, 21st, very defensive heavy class with 6 defensive backs, a lot of great defensive talent. You also added, of course, I mentioned Braden Davis, Tanner Bailey, who just signed at the quarterback position, Landon Sampson at wide receiver, a couple offensive linemen. Anything stand out to you overall from Shane Beamer's, what I would call his first legitimately full signing class as Gamecocks head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think where we are nationally at this point, I think, is the best you could have hoped for. Certainly, given kind of where the trajectory we've been on for the last 3 years, I think if you could add in the transfer portal guys that we've gotten in this, I guess, class, so to speak, I think that number rockets way up the board to your probably top 10 at that point. If you could count a Spencer Rattler or an Austin Stogner in there. So I think you've addressed a lot of the positions of need, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and bringing in new talent, fresh blood into the program. So I'm curious to see where all that stands out. Do I wish there were more elite receivers in that class? Certainly. But, I think from a positional need standpoint, I think we've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and I think South Carolina, Alex, I think, again, obviously, Shane Beamer has shown he's not going to sit on his hands. He's going to go attack the transfer portal. And I made the point that, it's funny, You've got one coach in the upstate that complains about the transfer portal and doesn't like the way new age college football is. And then you got a guy like Shane Beamer, who is not only adapted to the times, but taking advantage. And I can tell you what, one of those two gentlemen is going to succeed being a head football coach in today's game. And it ain't the guy up to the Northwest. It's Shane Beamer in Columbia, South Carolina. So I would expect them to add a couple more offensive pieces, definitely receivers. You got to add playmakers. Again, I'm sure they sold Spencer Rattler on, hey, we're going to go out and find you weapons. We're going to go find you some protection. We're not going to just leave you hanging out to dry and let your numbers suffer because of it. So I have to think they're going to go out there and attack the portal. Again, you mentioned the transfer portal. And, I want to talk about that a little bit because we just saw last week, Jason Brown, Gamecocks quarterback, entered the transfer portal. Your overall thoughts on the portal as a whole? I don't know if I've really talked to you about that. I mean, do you like the transfer portal as is? Because it really has truly, brought in some sort of a sense of free agency in college football. Do you like the portal? Do you think there needs to be restrictions or policies in place? Your overall thoughts? Because again, you're a former player. So I am very pro whatever helps the players because we're seeing coaches up and leave. But to a degree, it's kind of madness. And being a college football coach has become even tougher because you have to account for it.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issue with the portal whatsoever. I think the rule where you had to sit out unless you transferred down was kind of ridiculous on its face, given, if you're a coach, you can just up and leave whenever you want to. So no, I don't have any issue with the portal. I mean, if a guy wants to, I guess my question would be, to the fierce opponents of it, like if somebody doesn't want to be there, why would you want to keep them there?
Yeah.
I don't think that's really helping anybody. Like the kids that are okay sitting for 2 to 3 years and, prepping themselves for that moment, like they're not going to go anywhere. Like the people that are going to leave are the people that would have left anyway, or been, potentially a problem on the inside because they're not getting the playing time they think they should be getting or deserve to get. And so, kind of relieving yourself of that headache, I think is, as a coach, I think it's a good thing. Now, does it add a layer of chaos to everything across the board? I mean, certainly, but that's what you get paid $5 million a year to deal with. Right.
Yeah. And before
I don't really feel bad for them. I'll put it that way.
Right. I mean, yeah, they're being compensated, handsomely to work out. Do the admin work, as you said, right?
Yes.
That's their admin work. So yeah, it's whatever, push and pull. But before we move into the bowl game, again, on that note, Alex, I talked about Jason Brown entering the portal. He will not play in the bowl game against UNC, and this is with the transfer portal and opt-outs, right? We had a very intense conversation about a week and a half or so ago about bowl season. How do you fix bowl season with guys? We saw Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh and their running back, they opt out, and it's affecting a lot of games, right? It really is. I want to give you the floor, your overall thoughts on players opting out for bowl games. And again, we've seen JJ Nigbares, Aquandre White, Jason Brown, of course, who's in the portal. Does it rub you the wrong way? Is it something that bothers you? Again, guys are chasing money and they're chasing, if they're a first round draft pick. And I totally understand that. You know what I mean? I totally get that. But I also go back to this. When you were at South Carolina, you guys won the 2006 Liberty Bowl. And that was a big deal. And when you're a school like South Carolina, let's call it for what it is. You've won 9 bowl games in 129 years. The Spurs Up Show is brought to you by our friends over at Drizzly. Guys, friends over, binge watching your favorite show, cat on your lap. No matter your reasons for wanting to stay put, keep your feet up and get beer, wine, and spirits delivered to you in under 60 minutes with our friends over at Drizzly. Guys, Drizzly is the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep in under 60 minutes. They're also the #1 app for alcohol delivery. The convenience of home delivery in under 60 minutes when you need it, when you want it, guys. The convenience, you shop across stores so you can choose from a huge selection and get exactly what you want. You can also get the most value when you shop across multiple stores to compare prices and find the best deals on exactly what you're looking for. Guys, right now our friends at Drizzly are giving all new customers $5 off their first order with the code FAST5. So go download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com and use promo code FAST5 for $5 off your first order. Football. Winning a bowl game is a big deal. And I remember when, not just for the Gamecocks, but across college football, adding to your school's trophy case was also a very big deal. I mean, you think the Liberty Bowl is something you probably still get asked about and talk about. The guys that won the 01 and 02 Outback Bowls, I mean, they're still revered as like those special teams, right, that beat Ohio State. That was and still is a very big deal. How do you think you fix bowl season? I mean, is there a way to? Because I feel like at least the media has kind of ruined it as well, where like all the emphasis is on the playoff. And if you're not on the playoff, then the bowl game doesn't matter. The game doesn't matter. Again, we saw it with Kenny Pickett opting out, and he didn't opt out of the freaking the Tire Bowl. I mean, this dude opted out of like the freaking Orange Bowl. I mean, a huge game. Games that used to really mean a lot. You know, again, on that note, opt-outs. Does it bother you in any way? And I mean, what would be, do you have a solution for making bowl season great again, if you will?
I mean, is it less good than it used to be?
Well, when you have some of the top players opting out, I think it takes away some of the, for fans at least, you know, it takes away, well, like if the players don't care, then I mean, how big of a game could it really be? You know what I mean? Like I think that's kind of where.
Okay, so I think you're kind of, I think that conflates two things. I think like it's not to say that they don't care. You're just like, you're making a business decision at that point. I mean, there's still, 70, 80 guys on that roster that really do care. They're there, for the next couple of years, and they want to win this game. So I think like that kind of conflates. I think that kind of conflates a couple of things there, just with the opt-outs. Like I don't have a problem with the opt-out. Again, it's just like, don't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do in a voluntary exercise, because you're not going to get you're not going to get your best out of them. So like, if you're a first round draft pick, does it make sense to play in the Orange Bowl? I mean, probably not. Like if you tear up a knee or you get hurt a shoulder, like you just killed your draft stock. And so, I mean, it makes total sense to not play in that game. I don't view that as, quitting on a team by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, those are just the realities that come with it. I mean, like Oklahoma's going to play in a bowl game, and, media's not talking about Lincoln Riley quitting on the team. And he did. So, from that standpoint, I don't have an issue with it. Like if Kenny Pickett plays or not, like, does that change my excitement level for, me as a casual observer of college football to Pitt's bowl game? No. Like, it is what it is. Like when you talk about the focus, on the playoff, that's where it's all certainly been driven to, but I don't think it changes. Like, I had my TV on, was the one in Detroit, Car Care Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe. But, just kind of on in the background. And, so that's what I do for most of the bowl games anyway. So I don't think it makes a drastic difference one way or the other.
Yeah. No,
to me at least. I mean, I could be wrong across the board.
It's a business decision. Like you said, I think whether people like it or not, college football is moving more towards like more guys are going to make business decisions. And again, I have no issues also with if guys want to opt out. Like I said, don't force people to do something they don't want to do. I will also say on the other side, do I love seeing guys opt out? Do I love seeing my favorite players not play? No, I don't think anybody does, right? Nobody does. And you hate to think of, for example, South Carolina's not going to put the best version of its team on the field on Thursday without the guys that, the Quandre White, who was your leading rusher, J.J. Barry, who was your best defensive lineman, and Jason Brown, who was your starting quarterback down the stretch. How could you be putting the best product, your best foot forward in that game? But again, you got to respect guys. And I went on a rant about the transfer portal and guys bettering their own situations. And, there's no scenario in life in which you can't better your own situation. So I don't fault a guy at all. Speaking directly about Jason Brown, I don't fault a guy at all for wanting to improve or enhance his own situation. Now, on that note, again, let's just move into the game, Alex. South Carolina taking on North Carolina, the Dukes Mayo Bowl, 11:30 a.m. kickoff, which whoever made that kickoff time can kick rocks. That is just brutal. Yeah. But no, 11:30 a.m. in Charlotte, North Carolina. Really intriguing game. We'll start at the quarterback position. Zeb Nolan taking the reins yet again. I thought maybe we were done, but Zeb Simber is here, and Zeb Nolan will get the final opportunity to I don't know, add to the illustrious story that is the graduate assistant somehow, some way suiting up and doing it for a couple of games for the Gamecocks in 2021. Alex, when I look at this game, and South Carolina sits as a 10-point underdog, and it was 7, went up to 10, I think, after the opt-outs and stuff like that. Total's 59, which blows my mind. Blows my mind. I understand UNC's porous defensively, but the Gamecocks have been solid on defense, very good on defense, especially against the pass, and cannot do anything, at least for most of the season offensively. But Zeb Nolan, again, taking the reins. What are you expecting out of the guy? Again, you don't have Zaquandre White. I guess the recipe for success offensively is going to be basically what it was throughout the entire year, that we better hope the offensive line shows up and can lean on the running game, because as we know, asking Zeb Nolan to throw 30, 40, 50 passes is not going to be the recipe for success on the offensive side. And the Gamecocks should be able to score. UNC gives up 31 points per game. So what gives? Does South Carolina continue its offensive struggles, or can they take advantage of a porous UNC defense?
I would probably default to the former on that one, to be honest with you. But as an aside, is Colton Gauthier just like awful? Like what? Like we've got a month to prep him for this. Like Zeb's going to be a GA again after this bowl game. Like, how are we? Okay,
trust me, that's a great question, because people ask me about, you're adding quarterbacks, Rattler, Bailey, Davis, Doty will be back. They're like, oh, who transfers? I'm like, it has to be Gauthier, right? I mean, the dude hasn't cracked. He hasn't even sniffed the lineup. You know what I mean?
Like let the boy take some snaps. See what you got. I don't know.
I mean, trust me, your guess is as good as mine, my friend. Your guess is as good as mine.
I mean, and I mean no disrespect by this to Colonel Zeb. But the vibe I get from this is like this game is just like the physical embodiment of a jar of mayonnaise. Like it's fine, but I'm not like pumped about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, and again, I talked to you off air about it, man. But the statistics are just baffling, that South Carolina has not thrown for 200 or more yards in the last 5 games. And I think, again, this is going to be a game you're going to have to throw the football with some effectiveness. Again, they give up 230 yards per game to the air, 170 on the ground. Whatever. Win or lose, it's not going to be an indictment on the future of South Carolina football. If you win this, you're not going to win the national championship next year. If you lose it, the program's not headed down the crapper. It's a bowl game. It is what it is. It stands alone. But, man, the Gamecocks really should be able to move the football, man. There's just going to be no excuse. There's going to be no excuse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like, with the Zaquandre White not playing, it's not like you have like me as the next man up in the backfield. Right. I mean, we've got good players back there. So, I mean, hopefully we should be able to move the ball. And especially like with a month of practice time leading up to it, hopefully everybody's sharp. It's gotten the reps they need to get in, especially, because those guys opted out or hit the portal early. Like you've gotten a lot of reps for everybody else. So there's very few like surprises lingering in there on who's going to be getting the football and who's going to be taking the snaps. So, hopefully that leads to some success. I mean, the last time we had an off week, we came into it pretty well. So maybe we'll do the same thing.
Yeah. And of course, Kevin Harris will be spearheading that rushing attack. Defensively, though, Alex, again, I think this is a game where South Carolina, I don't know if you'd agree, they're going to have to score, I think, at minimum 24 points to win the football game. I don't think, again, your pass defense, top 10 in the country, exceeded all of our expectations. But UNC is going to move the football. I mean, they average 36 to 37 points per game. Sam Howell is a very legitimate player. They've got Ty Chandler at running back, which if that name rings a bell, he played at Tennessee. Guy ran for 1,063 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, and 13 touchdowns. And I told you off the air, too, like the most baffling stat regarding UNC, we all think of Sam Howell, the passer. Dude, he ran for 825 yards this year and 11 touchdowns. He averages 75 a game on his own right. When you look defensively, I think the greatest key in the game, you got to find a way to make UNC one-dimensional. Obviously, they can't be doing both and you have any chance. UNC averages 220 rushing yards per game. And Alex, get this. In games when you've allowed 180 or more rushing yards, you're 1-6. So, I know people get tired of hearing me say, oh, run the ball, stop the run. Like, yeah, we get it. But in a game like this, I just think that'll mean everything. You show me the rushing statistics, the final rushing statistics from UNC, I'll tell you what the margin of victory or defeat was in this ballgame.
100%. 100%. In addition to the fact, like, this is really the first, like, mobile quarterback we've played. But let me back that up. This is the first like guy that is like a contributor to the running game that we have played at the quarterback position. So I mean that's a new wrinkle you have to prepare for entirely. So I don't want to be a negative Nancy here, but I would get ready to see some very frustrating long third down conversions on quarterback scrambles.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you lose Jay Jenigbari for the game, and the Gamecocks already, the front seven just hasn't done it. They just have not stopped the run effectively enough. And again, you look at you look at this matchup, and it's just not favorable. It's just called for what it is. It's just not favorable. Again, we talked about importance of the bowl game, and I had somebody ask me on social media, how important is it? If South kind of loses, what does it mean? And again, like I just told you, Alex, I want to get your perspective. A bowl game is a standalone thing, right? Like South kind of lost. You were on the team, the 2005 Independence Bowl, which people forget that one. That was a painful L. I think we were up by like 21 points, and Mizzou with what was the quarterback's name?
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith, dude, he was nasty too, and they came all the way back and beat us, whatever. But it's a standalone thing, right? Like it's not if you lose, your program, like I said, is going in the tank, or if you win, all of a sudden you're whatever. But I just look at it this way. When you've won, like I said, 9 bowl games in your history, they're all pretty important. How do you view the bowl game? Because I think it can serve as definitely a springboard. And like you said, an opportunity for guys that maybe don't get to see the field as much, or maybe guys that just haven't been great contributors. Like if you pop off in a bowl game, maybe it can spurn you for a big following season. Like your overall thoughts and mentality, I guess, as where you sit as a fan going into this bowl game.
So I like, is it going to like ruin my week if we lose the bowl game? No, but I mean, it's for the team, like going out the, 2021 season amid the expectations that the national media, local media, everybody laid in front of you were like, this team is going to win 3 or 4 games. And it's like, if you can get out of this season going 7-6, winning a bowl game, the momentum that provides going into 22 is gigantic. And I think, with those opt-outs, now you've got opportunities for guys who had been backups this year, not necessarily running that position, but certainly on the defensive line, to get in there and shine through in an opportunity that may not have been given early in the year. So I think, you couple those two things together, the extra reps that everybody's getting leading up to this bowl game, it's an extra spring practice. And those are so helpful going into winter conditioning and into the spring practice, and then the summer, and then the fall camp, and just kind of how that thing rolls down the hill. It's huge. It's huge. And if you can go out of there with a win, even better. Loss isn't great to finish the season on, but, at least you got the extra practices and you got some guys in there that would get reps that normally wouldn't get them.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned that. I'm glad you brought it up, Alex. Steve Spurrier, he made the point. I think it's a great point that, he talked about the importance of winning a bowl game and just how big it is for the players specifically in the locker room. And again, you mentioned, of course, you played for Gamecocks football when you guys beat Houston in the Liberty Bowl. And he just talked about, it makes spring practice better. It makes conditioning better. It makes fall camp better. It's a very big deal. And again, it can serve as a springboard for your football team it doesn't have to be the playoff. When you win your last game, just I think from purely a momentum standpoint, and South Carolina's got a lot of it. I think what's very interesting about this game, Alex, is that, the bigger victory is the addition of Spencer Rattler. Just call it for what it is. It is. It's the bigger victory, right? And so I think no matter what the result is, Gamecock fans are going to look ahead of 2022 in a positive light just because of that addition. But if you can couple that with a bowl win, again, it just so positively impacts your football team and, again, makes the morale of your team so much better, as you mentioned, going throughout, like I said, spring practice, conditioning, fall camp, and then eventually into the following year.
100%. It's nice to, like, you get to celebrate with your teammates. You get to hold the trophy. You get the hats. I don't know what they do with the other hats, but you get the hats. It's just a cool thing to be a part of that is momentum changing within a program.
Yeah. No, I think back to when you guys won the 06 Liberty Bowl, and that was, I remember going to like a Gamecock club event, Aiken, South Carolina, the following year, and that trophy being there. That was a huge deal. Like that was, and again, that stands out as, one of my favorite memories as a Gamecocks football fan, with Blake Mitchell to Kenny McKinley and Sidney Rice and Jasper Brinkley. And that was a hell of a time, man. That was a hell of a time and a hell of a season for sure, too.
Fun fact about that trophy. I'm not going to name names here, but suffice it to say that that trophy ended up in one of the offensive linemen's hotel rooms, who overslept the departing plane back to Columbia from Memphis. And so that trophy had to be driven in somebody's car back from Memphis to Columbia.
Knowing the guys on that team, I can think of a few off the top of my head that would probably be the
It's not the ones you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you
okay.
that.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say, I can think of probably some likely culprits for sure.
It was not at the top of your list. I can promise you that.
I got you. Huh, that's interesting. Alex, it's been a pleasure, man. Again, always a pleasure to get your perspective and talk Gamecocks football. Last thing before I let you go, though, tell me if this is a bad idea. I'm actually thinking about, if South Carolina wins the football game, I might have to consume a jar of mayo on the live stream. Would you
please
eat a jar?
Please don't do that.
No, you wouldn't do that
No.
if the Gamecocks.
No.
I'm
It's
alone
not
in
worth
that.
it.
I'm alone in
Yes, you are. Completely alone. You're on the island. All right.
Here's a better question then. Here's a better question, and more important. Are you a mayo guy? Are you a mayonnaise guy?
Lightly dusted things with mayo is good. Like when you take a bite of the sandwich and globs of it are falling off, that's not my scene.
Bigger mustard
That's
guy, or I mean, what's your condiment of choice?
Spicy mustard. Oh, sriracha, no doubt.
Oh, okay. See, I like mayo, chipotle mayo. I rock with it all, man. When I get
chipotle mayos, I like that a little better because it's got a little more flavor to it. But spicy mustard over like your standard yellow mustard.
Yeah.
It may just be spicy things in general that I'm into. So who could say?
What do you think about the mayo bath that they're talking about? The winning coach will. I mean, I want to see a lot of things in life. I don't know that I'm craving to see Shane Beamer doused in mayonnaise. That doesn't sound.
I would lose the game on purpose not to be covered in mayonnaise.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of Shane Beamer or Mac Brown covered in mayonnaise is just not something I really want to see all that badly. I mean, again, we win the game, so be it. But yeah, I would not be happy if I were in that position and I got dumped mayo on myself. So
no, that doesn't seem like something that would come off easily either. No. Like something you'd have to take.
And you got to do the post game interview in mayonnaise.
Yeah,
no thanks.
Yeah, hopefully it's not hot.
Oh God. On that note, Alex, always a pleasure, my friend. Really looking forward to the game. And obviously, again, I guess we'll talk to you next week to break down everything that happens. And hopefully next week, this time, we're talking after a Gamecocks victory in the Dukes Mayo Bowl. But either way, man, always a pleasure and appreciate your perspective as always.
Absolutely, man.
For sure. He's Alex McGrath. I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And we'll catch you next time on another episode of the Spurs Up Show.